Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk self-care, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of Alignful.com. As always, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to another week of Tuning In. Thank you for joining me today. I spoke on this week's episode about choosing our thoughts and looking for what's going well in our lives. And I give some practical ways to actually bring this into your everyday. And I break down the difference between looking at something from a negative perspective versus a positive perspective. And don't worry, I am not just here to preach positive thinking. That is 100% not the focus of this episode. It's rather creating awareness of your thoughts and a connection to how you want to show up and see things in your reality. Without further ado, let's go to this week's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Tuning In. So I'm sitting here in my closet recording on the first day of October, and fall is absolutely my favorite season. The weather really showed up because we woke up this morning. It was like a cold, drizzly rain, 50 degrees, and cloudy. So, of course, all I wanted to do was put on sweatpants, light a candle. I have a blood orange and clove candle from a local company here in Colorado, and drink cozy things. And that's what I've been doing. Of course, I've been working as well, but I'm making my environment cozy. The weather it's something that people always have a reason to complain about. And I, long time ago, decided that I was going to love all weather and just go for it, because I get really sick of people complaining that it's not warm enough, or that it's too hot, or that it's not fall enough, or it's not summer enough, or where's spring? How come we go from winter to summer? And you might have shared some of those thoughts, but it kind of goes back to my overall philosophy, which is try to look for the good. And trust me, we're going to talk about this in this episode because I know it's easier said than done. I understand that that's not the easy choice all the time. But one of my favorite things to ask myself and to ask others is, what is going well? What is going well? It's so easy to complain about what's not going well. And don't get me wrong, I do this all the time. I get stuck, and I think we all get stuck in paths of just complaining. And here's the interesting thing. If you're complaining, you may not think that you're complaining. And this is a really important distinction, because you may actually think that you're just stating the facts. You're describing the circumstances. For example, I feel tired. Well, that's a fact, right? So you're just describing the circumstance. Or I'm cold, I'm exhausted, I don't feel well, I'm frustrated. All of these things are what seem like you describing a circumstance. However, it doesn't mean you have to talk about it all the time, because the more we talk about something, especially something that is unfavorable or something that we don't desire, the more we're keeping it in our frame of reference. And frankly, the more we are creating more of the same. If you're constantly thinking about how frustrated you are, you're building on your frustration. If you're constantly focusing on your exhaustion, well, you're certainly not going to suddenly feel energized. So it's more that we need to look at what we're saying, what we're repeating and notice if it is coming off in the form of a complaint. Now, what is going well is such a good question to ask because it asks our brain to look for something good. Instead of asking what's wrong, what's right? It definitely goes into the conversation of gratitude and appreciation. You can say and share all the things you're grateful for or all the joy that you have appreciation for in your life. But this question, what is going well, is very specific. And I want you to think about that for a moment. So, what's going well in your life? Notice if your brain wants to jump to dismissing what's going well so it can get around to complaining. Well, this is fine, but I'll tell you what's not working. So pay attention. What's going well? What in your life is working for you right now? I know there's things that aren't going well. I know you have problems. We all do. But what if we could start focusing not on the problems, but on the beauty that's in our lives? What if we start focusing on what's working versus what's not working? What if we celebrate the small wins every day and recap our day with what was good? All of this is training your brain. You see, we naturally will look for the bad, for the fear, for the danger, quote, danger of the day. And that's programming. It's fine. Our brains are wired to keep us safe. However, for the most part, in our current living situations, all the fear, all the negativity is not serving us. But what we have to do is start to shift our perspective. It's a perspective. The law of polarity says that for every good, there's a bad. For every bad, there's a good. There's two sides to every coin. And if you don't believe that, think about how you and someone else can be in the exact same situation and have completely different viewpoints about it. How you could wake up one morning at 6 a.m. and think, oh God, I hate waking up early. This is hard. What am I doing? This is going to be a horrible day. I'm frustrated. And how someone else, or even you on the same morning, could wake up and say, oh, it feels so good to start my day early. I am ready to handle whatever comes at me. Let's make this a good day. The circumstance is the same. It's your perspective and your choice of how to see it that's different. So when you start asking yourself what's going well, you're starting to look at the other side of the coin. What's wrong is still there, but what's going well is there also. So our training becomes looking for more of the good. Because here's the deal. When you start looking for the good, you know what you're going to find? Good. When you start looking for what's wrong and complaining and attracting that, you know what you're going to find more of? What's wrong. And this is simply an offering I have for you. It is up to you. But I would like you to consider, well, what's the harm in starting to look for more good, asking what's going right, and celebrating throughout the day? What's the negative? Well, you might say, well, I don't want to just sugarcoat everything and just smile through life as if there are no problems, because there are problems, Dana. And my response to that is, of course there's problems. Of course we have bad days and hard times and really tragic times in our lives. And there's nothing wrong with feeling those feelings and experiencing that for what it is. Here's the deal. When things are going well, if you start training yourself, reprogramming your mind, creating new neural pathways to remind yourself to look for what's good, when you do that, when things are going well, guess what happens when things don't go your way? You have a better outlook. You, of course, may feel sad or frustrated or devastated, but you have an upper hand because you know that there's another way to look at things. You know that you can move through this. You know that there is good, a light at the end of the tunnel, because you've trained yourself to see it when it was easy. Whenever we're trying to do something new, it's always easier to do it when things are going our way. So when things are going your way, that's the time to start the practice of asking what's going well. And then it becomes more natural to do when things are hard. So as I said, this isn't positive thinking. I hate that term. Now, I consider myself a naturally positive person, but positive thinking feels so superficial. And what's the phrase? Putting lipstick on a pig. I'm not trying to convince you to pretend to be happy all the time or that everything's good and perfect. But I'm asking and offering that you start training your brain to look at a situation from a different way. So, for example, a question that you can ask yourself, especially if things are challenging or if your default reaction is to criticize or complain, you could say, how can I look at this differently? Notice the energy behind that. It's not, how can I pretend everything's okay and hide my emotions and just, sugarcoat it and walk away? No, it's, how can I look at this differently? And that question starts to shift your perspective, pulling you out of the dark side, the heavy emotions that are bringing you down, and asking you to look for something else. Is there a little glimmer of light in the dark? If you're stuck in traffic, and you get really worked up and frustrated and mad and you start yelling in your car at all the other drivers, who are you hurting? Are the other drivers, are you hurting them? I mean, unless you're crashing into their car, no, they don't even know what's going on with you. You're getting yourself worked up. You're doing this to yourself. You're choosing to look at traffic as a negative. That's a perspective. That is a choice. The circumstances you are in traffic, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing or harmful to you, that's a viewpoint. That's a perspective, because you can't change the circumstance. Now, opening up maps and finding a new way, there's a proactive way to do something different if you're in traffic versus yelling and beeping your horn and being mad at everyone, because the circumstance is something you have no control over. And oftentimes we don't. We have very little control over external circumstances. What we do have control over is our inner circumstance. So, your inner circumstance, your energy, your feelings, those often come from your thoughts. So if you're in traffic and thinking, oh shit, here, of course, I'm in traffic, I'm gonna be late, this sucks, what is wrong, stupid drivers, everything always goes wrong for me, you feel horrible. And then what energy are you gonna show up with? But imagine if you're in traffic and you think, wow, I guess this is a sign for me to slow down. Or maybe I'm learning a lesson about leaving on time. Or maybe this is just an opportunity for me to put on my favorite podcast or play a song and just be by myself. Maybe it's a moment that I can just focus on my breath and make a plan for my day. Nothing changed about the traffic. The only thing that changed is what you're saying and thinking about it. And I guarantee you that if you use the latter thought process, you're going to feel different. I would argue you're going to feel better, but how you feel is up to you. What's going well? How can I look at this situation differently? What do I need to learn from this situation? All of those are questions that are giving you a shift, a reframe from how you're viewing it to viewing it in a different way. You're starting to look for what's working, to look for the good, to train yourself to see that, because here's what happens. With practice, when you start catching your thoughts, see, you must first be able to notice your thoughts in order to change them. What? It's like you catch yourself red-handed thinking a thought. I caught you. There you go again. Once you're able to notice your thoughts, then you can catch yourself thinking them. Then you have the opportunity to ask, is this how I want to see this? Does this thought serve me? How can I look at this from another perspective? Do you see the power that just gave you? You go from being in a victim mindset, a victim to your circumstances, having no power and no control, which you don't over your circumstances, to an empowered way to choose how you think about things, how you feel about things, what energy you're going to put into something. And know that I'm talking from a very basic perspective of living your everyday life. Of course, there's going to be special circumstances when you're dealing with trauma and all sorts of things, but just bear with me here as we consider this from your everyday life, because once again, how you do things on a regular basis, right? What you do every day determines who you become. What you think about yourself, what you think about others, what actions you take, how you feel, the energy you put into your work. All of those micro tasks, micro thoughts, micro words, they build upon themselves and create your reality. Your reality. And you can learn to bring more of what you want into your life by changing how you look at things, shifting the way you think about situations, and empowering yourself. Empowering yourself to choose. One of my favorite ways to do this is to start your day by choosing your first thought. What does this mean? So consider, what happens when you first wake up in the morning? What thoughts go through your head when that alarm goes off? Do you know? You might not know. So the first step, as always, is to build awareness. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, I want you to see if you can find your first thought. For a lot of people, frankly, it's, oh, God. All right, here's where I'm behind. Here's all the crap I have to do today. Oh, I forgot to do this. Oh, it's another Monday. It's too early. How can I? Does that feel familiar? Imagine if before you let that spiral take over, imagine if you said, I've got this. I am grateful for this day. Thank you for my amazing, comfortable bed that's held me all night. I am ready to get up. I can handle whatever the day brings. I love me. I'm ready. Let's do this. Here we go. Doesn't that feel different? It's so simple that you may discredit even trying it. But just because something is simple does not mean it cannot be profound. Because if you start your day thinking intentionally in a way that both serves and empowers you, you can take that into the rest of your day. And you're telling your brain right from the get-go that I decide how I think and feel, and I want today to be a good day. My choice. And then you move on from there. So if you're willing to try this, I recommend setting your alarm. You can have a little name of the alarm and write your good thought in the name of the alarm. I have one that says, today is a good day, and it has the little salsa lady and a heart and like a shooting star. And so every morning I see that. I'm like, oh, right, today's a good day. Yes, I can do this. It doesn't mean that I won't have troubles during the day, but I am declaring what kind of day I want. And I'm setting the stage for the rest of the day. And then at the end of the day, I would encourage you, right before you go to sleep, to circle back to how we started this conversation, is ask yourself, what went well today? How did I show up for myself today? What am I proud of? What lessons did I learn? You can start asking yourself little questions like that so that as you fall asleep, you're already imprinting the good. And then you wake up and you're reinforcing it. That cycle right there can make huge shifts in your life. Now remember, we have programming in our brains already, and often it's to look for what's wrong. That's fine. We don't need to judge it. We can have compassion for our brain's desire to see the problems and have fear. It's okay, brain. Thank you for trying to do your job, and let me do mine. This process will take time, but with continued practice, with awareness of your thoughts, with that proactive choice every day of choosing your first thought, you will start to create a new neural pathway, a new groove, so to speak, in your brain that is guiding you toward what's going well, what's working, what you're grateful for, how you can look at it in a way that is more serving for you. That is the commitment. Do it once and then repeat it every day. First thing in the morning. And in time, you'll notice that you don't have to think about your first thought, that it automatically goes towards something that's empowering and reaffirming and assuring for you. I hope that this episode gave you a little insight and practice that you can take into your everyday life. Requires no extra time, no extra energy, rather just awareness and a commitment to show up for yourself so that you can shift not just how you see this moment, but how you see your entire life. As always, thank you for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe and share it with anyone that you think this would serve. I'm so grateful to each of you, and have a beautiful day.